So, good morning, everyone. I believe we have started. It's time for another Friday morning session, Crunchfish webinar, Survival of the Fittest. And here's the panelists. Please wave to the audience. Yes, yes, good looking there. So, good morning, Joachim Samuelsson, Crunchfish CEO.
Good morning, Johan. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Great. And then we have Andreas Iverbeck, Patent Manager, Telecom and Software at Berg & Stråle and Partners.
Good morning, Johan. And how are you today?
I'm fine. And you are in Stockholm, I believe.
Yes, I'm in Stockholm today. It's nice to be here visiting your nice webinar.
Yes, great. Well, this is the first time for you?
Yes, it is.
Yes, and now we will talk about patents. We will soon give some more information. But first, good morning, Paul.
Good morning to you all.
Good morning. Joachim, he was a bit worried about he's not wearing a beard because he felt outside our community, the bearded men.
It grows out. It will come again. Just let it grow.
Have you ever had a beard, Joachim?
Maybe when I've not shaven for a while, but it is not intentionally, sort of.
Okay.
Like you guys.
Okay, great. So, well, is it a good morning for you, Paul?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
On the beard front, this was not intentional either. Just happened.
Just since yesterday. So
yes.
It's very
It goes quickly on Paul.
Goes quickly. Okay, today, and I hope you, if you're watching this, if you are our regular viewer, you know what will happen. There will be some kind of an hour of information and debating and discussing and hopefully laughter as well about what's happening at Crunchfish. Today it will be about gesture patents. And if you're the newcomer, this is our weekly webinar. We talk about, we have digital cash most of the weeks, and once in a while we talk about gesture interaction, and that's what will happen today. So Joachim, just give us an overview. What's the next coming 58 minutes we'll be dealing about?
Well, yeah, we did cover our patent portfolio within digital cash 4 weeks ago, I think, and I think it's time to do a similar overview on gesture as well. The main difference that we'll talk about is that this is a very mature patent portfolio that has passed all these. It's all public. We have all gone for nationalization, and it's more about how can we commercialize some of these patents. And I'm very happy that I'll share this presentation with a consultant, Andreas Iverbeck, that you have introduced, that will talk about sort of his findings for commercialization. So it's going to be a little bit more on that. What can you do actually with patents that you have? How can you exploit them? And we have sort of engaged Andreas to look into that.
Great. And so this week there will be two shorter presentations. You will start, Joachim, and then Andreas will follow up, and then we will have some kind of discussion. I have a couple of questions I want to throw at you. And of course, if you're watching and you want to participate, please write comments or questions in the forum, in the chat forum, so I will be able to pass them on. So use that opportunity, and then I think we should start. Let's go to you, Joachim, then for the presentation.
Sure. Here we go. Let me share my screen. All right. So webinar 22nd, the 22nd webinar on patents.
Yes, and I can just say that if you're curious about the gesture technology and the ideas about it, we have plenty of webinars at the web page, so you can just go there afterwards and look at some more webinars. So we have it all on the website. Okay, Joachim.
Yes. Yeah. No. let me give an overview. We have been very active from the very start here at Crunchfish to develop our patent portfolio. We have, as a group, 42 unique innovations here, and of those, 31 have already been granted a patent in one market at least, some in many, as you will see today. Crunchfish is, as a group, has 2 subsidiaries where we have our operations from. To the left, there is the Crunchfish gesture interaction, and this is the focus of today. Here we have 12 unique innovations, and they're all being granted in many of them in multiple markets, as you will see today. And then we have also digital cash, where we are now up to 30 innovations. This is more of a growing patent portfolio and evolving and not as mature as the one we have within gesture interaction. This goes back to the very early days. Crunchfish started, Paul founded the company in 2010. Company was really active, developing a lot of apps before people even know what apps was. But one of those apps, one of these ideas led into gesture technology. We have then developed the gesture technology over many phases. First phase was sort of, we had for mobile phones, how you can sort of make a pose and take a selfie. Then we started in 2015 looking into AR, VR, and that's what we call the XR pose. We started with neural nets as well in 2018, combining that with our classical algorithm, and that was the XR tracking. And then lately we have gone over for just neural nets. 2021 we had our product XR Skeleton, and then what we now are is a full-fledged platform which we can target extremely quickly to any problems. That's what we covered in some of those previous webinars, how versatile and how adaptable this skeleton platform really has been. But this is sort of the evolution of the product, and during this time we have come up with various patents along the way, and if I were to look at one overview view of what is our gesture patent portfolio, and here you see these sort of 12 sort of innovations here, and they mainly come into sort of in sort of three areas. There are some smart ways to activate the camera. You know, it's all about using a camera sensor to make decisions, and we have got patents about how would you do that in a very sort of smart and clever way. And one idea here is the first one there. You can see we can activate the camera by simply tilting the unit. And that is an important way of sort of activating a camera that could, for instance, be used for in AR context. Because if you just tilt your head to the left or to the right, that could be the trigger for now the camera starts. Otherwise, you would have to start. You don't want to have the camera on all the time because that consumes a lot of battery. So what you want to do is to come up with ways to activate the camera in sort of smarter ways. What you could do is, if you are expecting them that there should be some gestures here, is to deactivate the camera. So if you don't start interacting with the device, deactivate the camera again. So just waiting a while where there's nothing seems to be happening. And that is a way automatically to deactivate, and then that takes again lower power consumption. We had another one as well, which is a smart way to activate the camera using what is called passive sensors. These are sensors in devices that are on all the time. Ambient light sensors on a mobile, for instance, is such an sensor that is constantly on. That is the sensor that is sort of actually turning off your screen when you take the phone to your ear, because there's no reason to have the screen on if you hold your camera or your mobile to your head, really. So that could be a way that we simply do some sort of pattern with a passive sensor, which is anyway on, and that is a way to activate the camera. Otherwise, how would you activate camera? Well, you would have to have a button or something to, now I turn it on, you turn it off. But here are ways to activate the cameras in, other ways. And we got sort of patterns for that. We also have in the second column here, we have patterns here for how you interact with the device. And one which we will talk about more going forward here in this talk, because we've asked Andreas Iverbeck to look into this one, and that is if we could unlock or lock a device by doing a gesture pattern, which is actually random. Our idea is that if you think that you have a key, if you have a sort of a pin code, and you would draw that in the air with your hand, so 1, 5, 6, 3. The problem is if you do that, other people could see your gesture. But the idea we had is that if we scramble the keypad, you use the same pin, but we scramble the keypad, that means that the gesture pattern will be random, using the same pin, but the numbers on what you see in your AR VR glasses would be different. Could even be used on a mobile phone as well, really, if you are using gestures that the keypad basically is scrambled, but you use the same pin. And we think that's a very interesting way to unlocking these devices. Certainly when AR and VR are gonna come in a much broader sense in the markets, I think this is quite a powerful pattern that we got there. The second one as well, it's not easy to know what you are supposed to do when you're interacting with gestures. So here we are providing some tool tips by some transparent recommendations. So you're getting some idea of what are you in this context able to do. And we got a pattern for doing these cues for the user. Some tool tips that can be built in. The three below that are patterns that we actually got a patent in Sweden, but we got resistance for that in other markets. So these three next ones are actually patterns we only have in the Swedish market, and I'll talk less about them because I think we feel they are less important to our portfolio. To the right side, detect and track gestures efficiently. We have a smart way, this was one of our earliest patents, of detecting what are you trying to do in terms of, are you're trying to make some sort of gesture, and in order to detect what it is, we could more efficiently, more quickly understand what's going on. So you don't have to do a full analysis. And in this way, it means a faster response to the user, so we can improve the interaction. And again, lowering the power consumption. That one is the other one we have asked Andreas to look at, whether we could have a wider spread for this one. We also have an idea of using relative angles instead of absolute angles. That is important because we make the entire detection much less dependent on the camera position if we have it just relative instead of absolute sort of angles. That is actually in the same patent family as the first one. And then this was our very first one. We have a way to track gestures in a better way by using some selected points, and that is speeding up the efficiency of the calculations. that's overall what we've had. And we went through an exercise with Andreas to look at which one of those should we possibly look at if we could sort of exploit for others and seeing the potential. And the one we looked at is this one, the enable user authentication and the fast gesture detection. This one actually sits in the same patent family as these with the activating the camera. We had a patent application that included multiple innovations in the same one, and some in some jurisdictions they have been asking us to split the applications in several. That's why it sort of says here that the overview of our patent family is that we have 8 patent families. That means sort of 8 original patent applications, but they have been splitted into 12 innovations. We're now up to, if I count every single national patent of it, is 32 patents that has been granted. And of these 12 innovations, all of these 12 are now sort of patented in at least some markets. The priority is quite early. This is when the first ones are from 2012. And as you may know, a patent is valid for 20 years after the application. So we would have coverage sort of up to 2032, 2033 for some of our patents. And we have we have applied for these gesture patents initially in Sweden, and then we gone from EU, US, and China for most of them. I talked about this last time when we had digital cash. This is the patent process. You do an initial filing. You have that priority for 20 years, as I talked about. Within 12 months, you have to decide whether you want to go international with this one. And then you file for what is called a PCT application. It stands for the Patent Convention Treaty. This gives you another 18 months before you have to nationalize your patents. Unless, if you don't do that, you would need to start nationalize your patents already here. By the PCT application, you are allowed another 18 months before you start nationalizing them, because each country is sovereign. They make their own decisions. So you need to decide at the latest then 30 months after the initial filing for what countries you want to be in. This is how the process works. But this portfolio is quite old. So this is past this. We don't have everything has passed these 30 months. So what I will hand over now to Andreas to look at, okay, what can we now do? We are past nationalization. We are way past that. And now we're into looking into how we can exploit those patents. So I'll leave it to you, Andreas, to continue this presentation.
Thank you, Joachim. Just to give a background and some context where I'm coming from. I've been working 23 years in the patent business within telecom industry, mainly with commercialization, as you mentioned, Joachim, such as patent licensing, acquisition, and sales. Also managed several litigation programs. So that's so you know where I'm coming from. And as Joachim mentioned, we were asked to make a second opinion and analyze some of the selected cases in Crunchfish, very interesting patent portfolio. Just a quick overview, some of the cornerstones in the process of analyzing a patent. And I would say in this context, obviously, if you are running a licensing program or some patent assertion gets asserted to you, I mean, then you would obviously make a more deeper analysis of these and you make an argument on the patents back and forth. But this is more on the cornerstone for making a second opinion. First of all, you look at the jurisdiction and the family status. As Joachim mentioned, these selected cases we will look into are pretty mature, so they are granted. It's interesting to see where they are granted, which jurisdictions, that's important. You can look at citations, which other companies are citing your patents and patent applications. And that comes both from the patent offices that use your patents as prior art against others' filings, and also companies' own citation when they are developing technologies and then looking at prior art and background technology to see what they base their inventions on. File history and prior art, that's the prosecution. Joachim mentioned about the discussion you have with each patent office. Sometimes you do say things that you maybe shouldn't say, and that can come back and bite you in the back if you do it wrong, especially if you are running an aggressive assertion campaign. Then there is a gold mine to look into that if you want to find arguments against someone asserting a patent. You can also look at type of claims, how suitable they are for commercialization. I mean, there are different type of claims. You can have method claims, you can have system claims, you can have apparatus claims, and etc. And these claims can have different use depending on what you want to do with the patents, what's your use and purpose of the patents are. And then you make a claim analysis. I mean, what's the strengths and weaknesses in the patent claims? Since patent claims are ones that they are the ones defining the protection scope of the patent. And if you add unnecessary limitations or missing out on something, that can be a weakness or strength depending on how you do that. So that's because writing a patent is a handicraft. I mean, it's not for anyone to do that. It's really a handicraft that you need to train and to do it often and learn how to do it, especially when you have a different purpose. Yes, patent family number 2. One of the examples we looked into. As you see, this is granted in all 5 jurisdictions. So this is, I mean, red in that sense. The European is fulfilled in Germany, France, and Great Britain. Priority from 2012, so it's an early patent, but still many years left. You have like 11 more years to do something with it. I think you can take next, Joachim.
And this one, Andreas, is sort of what it is. The patent family 2 is sort of as you had your comments, sort of.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. This is the smart determination of gesture and function in a tree structure. So it's in kind of clever way to quick and easy detect what gesture you're trying to do. So you quite quick detect that, and then you kind of impose that action immediately. Some recommendation actions that I think Crunchfish could do with this particular family. I mentioned invalidity search. The reason here is that for some of these patent family members, the patent office, I mean, they are granted, so you should have a presumption of validity, obviously, because it's granted in the patent office. Then it depends on what you do with the patents, if you want to assert it against someone else or build a more attractive package. Because for this particular case, some of the patent office didn't really cite especially much prior art. And that, having been in this industry for over 20 years, that can be a flag to look into, because it can be a warning flag. It not necessarily it is, but it's something you should look into if you want to make sure the patent is strong. You could analyze the citing companies. Who are citing and why are they citing? Are they developing same kind of technology or same kind of products? They would probably be a taker of this license or this technology, or even acquirer. So you should look into who they are, what's their kind of situation and attitude against patents. Then build a commercial package. Obviously, if you want to commercialize this, think about how you should do that. I mean, the normal way would be here to maybe to build an attractive technology licensing package that you add on software, demos, blueprints, whatever, to the patents. You not do a pure patent licensing. I think we'll come to this in the question later on. But you need to start to build this package that makes it attractive to someone to take that or to buy it. And as you mentioned in the beginning, Joachim, where we talked about this, create an IP showroom. This webinar is a perfect example of that. You can do more. You can present the technology that you have developed. You can show that you have it patent protected, where, and make that so the market or the business gets aware of that you have this opportunity, and that if you take the decision that there is an opportunity for other companies to do this, because I mean, patents is an exclusive rights. So if you are interested, you can make a statement, okay, this is open for the market to get a license from us if that's something you want. And that you can do by an IP showroom. Family 3 is the other one. We talked about the authentication or the unlocking. It's also, as Joachim mentioned, includes the camera activation, smart activation by tilting, for instance. Same situation here, more or less. These 2 European patents now granted, both Sweden and US. The same situation there. It's a mature patent portfolio. It's now you should do something with it. So
I think this one also, Andreas, is interesting, as you have written in your comment here, that this is potentially what links digital cash and gesture, because it's an authentication of purchase because you need a PIN code for maybe buying something, and if you're buying something with say AR glasses, this is a good way of doing that. So that links in a way the gesture area with the digital cash area.
Yeah, it's not necessary just for unlocking, but that's I think the typical case you normally mention and you can explain to people. But for sure, I mean, it's any kind of authentication could be. So
yeah.
Quite the same recommendation action here. So prior art is probably not as big issue, because the patent offices did find some prior art that has been considered and still being granted. So it's again, look at the citing companies, build the commercial package, and create the IP showroom. So kind of the same approach for this particular family. Then as an overall, there are some steps Crunchfish can do, depending on what kind of strategy. I mean, now you have a good patent portfolio, what you want to do with it. One would be to select one of these families or clusters and actually build a commercial package according to the recommendation. The other one would be to go back to the portfolio, because you have other patents, and do the same exercise. And you could either find additional commercial opportunities, or you could actually find some money-saving opportunities by finding patents that you don't see a use for, that you can prune away and save annuity fees, or you can even try to sell it. Maybe someone else is doing this or having the needs from this. So that's something you can do as well. And the third is, again, I mean, the IP showroom. I think that's definitely something you should continue doing and build even more. I mean, you have part of this information as seen on the web. This webinar is a perfect add-on to that, but you can do even more. You can be even more clear if that's the strategy you want to make it. Okay, this is an opportunity that we can share. We are willing to share and discuss this by our terms, because I mean, you have patents that are exclusive. You don't have any friend rules as we had in the telecom world, so you can actually do whatever you want with the patents. You can license this to one party or to hundreds of parties. That's up to your discretion. So that's quite quick overview on that.
Yes, thank you, Andreas. And over to you, Johan.
Yes, I just had a sneeze, so sorry for that. Okay, well, thank you both of you. Well done. It's for me, this is quite an exotic arena, and I'm curious about how you think about it. And I got some kind of overall perspective here, but I have some questions for you, so you can pick whatever you want here, and please join in, Paul, whenever you. So just give me an overall perspective. Why is this so important for Crunchfish with patents? Why is it? Can you do the same thing without the patents, or is it totally necessary for your idea?
Yeah, I don't know if I could take that. Yeah, we strategically looked into patenting our idea, and we think it is of crucial importance. One, I think for a technology company like we are, we need the patents in order to own the technology we develop. If we don't do that, we are in a way early coming up with ideas, and when the market sees which one really takes off, then it's free for anyone else to do what we have done. I think we need that for that protection. I think another reason is that it builds substantial value in the company. I think that anyone who would at some point want to acquire the company would look hard, I think, on actually getting the assets. I think the patents are probably one of the most important factors for an innovative company like Crunchfish to have patents, because I think that is to some extent, a large part of what someone is buying. But it's also to make sure that we're out there and applying for our ideas. Is that we can then be somewhat sure that what we develop, we have the right to do. Otherwise, there is a risk that other people might sort of end up getting patents for ideas that we have developed, and that could protect us, or not protect us, sort of prevent us, sorry, from actually doing what we do. So there are multiple reasons. I'm sure Andreas could add more to this, but I think there are very fundamental reasons why you really would like to pursue a patent strategy.
Yeah, I think just the final thing you mentioned, Joachim, is I think by the far most important when you look at small and medium-sized companies. We see so many customers or clients getting looking for investment, and all investors and venture capitalists, they start by asking, okay, how's your IP situation? And that has changed, because go back in 5-10 years, they ask, do you have IP? And everybody said yes, and then go to the next question. Now the next question is, okay, what is your IP? How does your patent portfolio look like? And you don't have anything to show, then they move on to the next company that has patent protection.
So, and this is well, not in this just this market. It's overall, you mean?
Oh yeah, for any industries. It's nothing to do with high tech or telecom. It could be in pharma, or I mean, it goes for everything.
So Paul, when you started the company, what was your thought about IP then?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I'm very grateful that Joachim taught me the importance of patents, actually, because we had a strategy, we had an idea that okay, we create a lot of innovation, and actually we had the innovation before also, that was interesting, but we didn't before we registered, but we tried to get it out and tested it basically, and those things, as you know, if you reveal things, you cannot patent. So this was things that was before this, but Joachim actually taught me that as a small company, you need to have this patent to position yourself on the market space.
Yeah,
so that has been a lesson.
Yeah,
I would like to say, we would just like to say also regarding patents. One other thing that is interesting in patent is that when you're developing, you have an idea, and then you start to formalize it, and then you should do this work, this handiwork that Andreas and Joachim talked about to formalize the patent. You actually you do a lot of reviews, so you have a lot of other patents. So actually you learn a lot about the market also when you work actively in this area. So you can see, okay, big companies, what are they positioning and so on. So in a way you get some sort of idea of what is important and what is the trends in the R&D space. So that in itself is also very interesting, I think.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions here. Is the process of patent, is it a way of scouting the market? You're applying for a patent, and then you get some kind of reaction, and from that you know your position within the market. Is that a case?
I think that partially happens, at least in the process. So that I think is a piece of the puzzle as well.
So I'm quite curious about the situation. You mentioned here, I think it was you, Joachim, that you got one patent in Sweden, but not on other markets. How the difference between different markets, how they react when you apply for a patent, is that what you can expect from the beginning, or is it, well, you don't really know how it will how the reactions will be from different markets?
We don't know, but they are supposed to do the same type of analysis. They look worldwide for anything which is sort of being prior art, as it's called. If there is anything that is already known, then it's not possible to patent that. But there are known differences. I think that US looks upon things slightly different from how they do it in Europe. It's sort of minor differences, but there are sort of differences. But then we are really into technicalities. I wouldn't be in a position to tell exactly what's the difference between the US and the European patent authorities are, but I just know, and I hear it from our patent attorneys that, well, in the US, this is maybe possible, but this is the Europeans will not allow it. So there are some differences in that sense, but technically they should sort of do quite the similar type of analysis, but they are sovereign. Each sort of country make their own decision at the end on what they allow to be patented in their markets. I think Andreas probably have a better view on this than I have.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Paul. Okay. Yeah, I mean, what Joachim says, I mean, first of all, it's people working in this patent office, so it's up to each and every person. I mean, how much time you spend on looking for prior art. I mean, the Swedish examiner might spend 5 hours, then the European examiner maybe spends 20 hours, and of course you might find prior art. That's one thing. And the other one is that you have different formal requirements, especially between US and Europe, and to Sweden to some extent. So I mean, there are several reasons why this can happen, that you get the patent granted in Sweden and you can get it granted in US, but you don't get it granted at the European Patent Office.
So do you totally change your strategy when you've got these different answers, or do you keep track on the original idea? How much of a strategic choice is there?
It is you would reassess anytime you get a response. You need to reassess, and I think there is a law in the US, for instance, that anything that you have got against you from any patent office, you need to reveal that to the US patent attorney, or patent offices. So there are all sort of objections, as Andreas was talking about, the file history, what is happening here in your communications with the patent authorities, that does affect you, and it is something that will lead to possibly reassessment. I think these, as I said, there were some patents we had. We got the Swedish patent, but then we got sort of they found prior art in Europe when we apply there, and we decided then, okay, let's not go further with this particular innovation. Let's abandon it in both China and in the US because of what they found in Europe. That happens.
How much do you use? Sorry.
No, I mean, you can also turn around that. I mean, look at the other side of that coin. If you have it granted in Sweden, you get it granted in Europe, and you get it granted in the US. That's a very strong indicator on the quality of the patent. So,
and are some markets? Well, that's a good market to start, because if you get it right there, it will be able to travel better.
Yeah, well, we have, being Swedish, we have decided, so strategy-wise, the process, we start with Sweden. We have done that every single time. Andreas would have a wider understanding whether if that is the common way to do it, but that's what we tend to do. Start in Sweden, then we go for a PCT application, so we get that additional 18 months, and then we nationalize. I think that's the strategy we've been following all the time with our patents.
I understand the protection part. How much do you think of using patents for being able to license your products? Licensing, is that an issue for you?
It started to be. That's why we engaged Andreas here at Bergenstråle. We were not working actively in the area of licensing technology at all. I would say we used it more for our own purposes, but we engaged Andreas, who have a lot of. It's not many, I think, patent knowledgeable people in Sweden that has the experience of Andreas, that going in a successful way for licensing, and Andreas is one of them, and we're very happy to got his feedback and starting working with him to look at that idea of licensing.
Oh, you're so nice to Andreas now.
Well, this is the truth. Isn't it, Andreas?
Yes, the truth.
Okay, great. So, Andreas, can you just tell me about the, or anyone, about the overall idea when you talk about patent families? What's the core idea with patent families, and how what kind of well, what's the thinking about behind that?
I mean, the family is an expression. I think Joachim did explain a little bit. Is surrounding around one invention, and then you file that invention as a patent application in different countries or jurisdiction. And all those jurisdictions and applications and patents that are granted finally, they are comprising the patent family. So that's one patent family. So it normally surrounds one invention, one idea. But then it can diverge into I mean, divisionals and etc. That formalities. So it can, in sense, have related inventions, but it's from one core, one original idea, I would say, that comprises one patent family.
Yeah, so I agree, Andreas. It can spread over many countries. It's the same original application, but then divisional, that you can divide an application. Is that maybe the patent office says, well, this is not just one innovation here, there are actually several. And that has happened a few times to us. And then that belongs to the same patent family as well, because it's from the same original application.
Right, and even there you can see differences between jurisdiction. We talk about European are much more stricter. They are quite easy or quick on saying, okay, now you need to divide this because this is an additional invention, while the US is more forgiving on that.
Paul, I'm thinking about, since I know you as a very creative man and plenty of, well, we're curious about everything. When you see other people structuring the ideas, like, well, patents and bringing them into families and stuff like that, do you get more ideas by watching how, well, someone else has structured the work you're doing?
Well, it's interesting. Actually, I don't tend to be too much influenced ID-wise from the others' patents, but I'm quite sensitive to combining things in different areas. So for different technologies or different fields, and that tends to then create something new. But then I have learned quite a lot. You're working with Björn also and Joachim and so forth. But how they are formulating the ID in a context that is reviewable. that's a handicraft work that you have to learn. Typically, I'm quite often in the start, at least, with an ID together with someone else, maybe Joachim or someone else, and then we start to try to see what is actually the essence of ID on the whiteboard. But then after we have gone through different approaches with this ID and seeing that, okay, it can hold and it's applicable for the field we are working in, then typically we take it further to our patent advisors and lawyers that then write the actual text together with us, and then we discuss it together again, because it is quite difficult actually to you have an ID and then you have to get it down on paper and you have to be concise enough so it is, hitting the mark, but it cannot be too general either, because then it is it will not be approved. It's like, okay, I will take a patent for the whole universe. I mean, that is not.
Please do that. Please be precise. Be precise.
So, and it's a bad idea from the start. But so you have to find this middle ground.
Yeah.
You want to be able to have a general patent, so you take a lot of cover, a lot of market, but it cannot be too general, because then you will find prior art, and it will not hold.
Yeah, we have a question here to Andreas from the chat from the someone's watching. It's Timmy Erengård, and he's wondering, if you were to put an estimated monetary value on the patent portfolio, where in a span would that value be? Is that a question that's easy to answer?
Well, it's not easy to answer, and I don't think I should answer it here either. I mean, I think that's something we should discuss, not in a webinar or for a public company, but that's for sure an exercise you can do. That's
and you know, if you were if you were forced to tell it, you have some kind of idea of what you would answer.
Maybe not in the number as such, but I know how to do that. I mean, obviously,
okay.
that's one of the jobs I do. I mean, that's one of the tasks I have.
Okay, sorry, Timmy.
So sorry for not being able to answer that.
So, what are the best use cases that these patents protect? Would you say?
I'm not sure if I'm the one to ask that or answer that to Paul, or I mean, you can mention the use cases. I think
we can talk about the authentication, for instance, the pattern. Yeah. That's an extremely interesting pattern, I would say. As you know, as soon as you have to unlock a phone or a device, nowadays we have our pins, we have our face recognition algorithms running in our phones, securing everything in this little device that we have in our pockets. And I mean, there is no reason to believe that it should be otherwise with different with the AR glasses, for instance. The AR glasses will come, it will be like an additional thing, just like we have the smartwatches, for instance. And when as soon as you have authentication into those devices, you have to solve that in a seamless manner. Cannot be too complicated. And we believe that to make a gesture to just log in is a very direct way in those scenarios. And then you have to protect the login. And I have a hard problem to see any other way to do it than the one we have a patent on, actually. So I think it's extremely interesting.
I agree, and the benefit is that I mean they are so well written, so it's really not. I mean, they are completely device agnostic. So I said there's so many verticals you can actually use this for the auto industry or the production industry, or I mean the gaming industry or the VR or AR glasses. So I mean that's for sure a good thing.
I'm curious about the origin of your innovations and patents. Do they come from need, use case, or are you looking for a use case after you have come up with the innovations? What's the order?
It's a combination. It's hard to find a concrete path. You know, this is always step 1, 2, 3. But all those things that you mentioned are in the mix, for sure.
Joachim, any way you prefer? You think it's the better?
The closer you are to solving a real need in the market, the better. But sometimes we do, as Paul said, it's in the mix of we sometimes come up with an idea that we think is very novel. We haven't yet seen a very clear need for it, but we think strategically that if we protect this idea, there will be people will realize that there is a need for this in the market, and we have certainly taken a chance a few times on ideas that hasn't come from a market requirement. It has come from just pure creativity and understanding technology. It's like Paul said, quite often combining technology. We have our approach. If we talk about the digital cash area, we have our approach with digital cash, and we know what it takes there. I think Paul was starting to investigate what does it mean with quantum computing, and what we did was then was an idea of Paul of how we can combine our digital cash technology with an idea for how we can be protected against when quantum computing comes about. I think that's certainly not a market requirement today, clearly, but it is something that I think a lot of people are concerned about, and we then take a patent combining quantum with our digital cash approach, and no one is asking us to do that in the market, but we think it still makes sense to do it.
Yeah, and that's if the more of a front runner, a visionary you are, you have to be have that kind of gut feeling. And so the question then, how do you build and help a need to come out? Can you work with that, or do you have to wait for the market to realize it on its own, or can you really fasten the process?
I think we are fastening in the process by simply that we are developing ideas, we're including it in our technology, which opens up new use cases, new ways of doing things. But there are also cases where we I think they take the one with quantum computing. That's not out yet, but I think it's something that will probably come within some few years, and then people will need to understand how to protect themselves for that, and that is basically a general sort of market need or market development that needs to happen. And then we have that position, because and that's a little bit the you have to be early with patents. The winner takes it all. Whoever files first for an idea will have the right. If you're one day late, sorry, the other one has full rights. You don't have the rights. So that's why you have to be a little bit speculative on patenting early. Otherwise, I think you are too late to the game, really. So by nature,
Andreas, just tell me how much does this creativity force the regulation with the part to be innovative and be able to handle new areas of innovation?
It does to some extent. I mean, I think that what you see now is all the AI machine learning, technology being developed, where the patent system is not really catching up. I mean, there's everything is counted as software patents, and you can argue about that, and you can argue about if an AI machine can be an inventor or not. I mean, there is a debate on that, where technology is moving in a direction moving much faster than the actual system can handle.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to actually what Joachim mentioned. I mean, if you should definitely be early, and you should be, creative and conceptualize, because hopefully the market catch up to that idea. Actually, a story from my other big company I used to work for. We call the best ideas, we call them bathtub ideas, which has nothing to do with any R&D, because someone just comes up with the idea in the bathtub, and we actually did file some patents on those, and some of those patents actually got some of the most interesting and, I wouldn't say valuable, but useful patents in that big portfolio, not being a standardized portfolio. So I mean, you shouldn't discard ideas just because they are not product development at the moment for them. If it's a good concept, a good idea, then you should go for it and see what happens. If you can patent it, you can try.
I got just curious. Have you got any? Have you run into any lawsuits? Any patent infringement proceedings during the way?
No, we have not.
No. So then the system works then.
Yeah, we haven't certainly not. We haven't litigated with anyone, and no one has come to us either, really.
Okay. Yeah. So we're just.
I have one comment on the patent office. You asked about if people have to be creative on the patent side as well, in the patent offices, and I just wanted to mention that it's a funny thing, but even Albert Einstein, he actually worked at the patent office in Bern, in Swiss.
Okay.
That was his occupation, actually. Before he became,
he went to the dark side.
Yeah.
He went to the
you
dark
know why
side.
he left?
Yeah.
Did you know why?
If I knew it, no, I don't know why he left.
He was bored.
Okay.
Okay. So, final minutes, and if you have any questions if you're watching this, please write immediately, because I will soon wrap things up. If you just help me take an overall look at the patent portfolio, what are the strengths and weaknesses of Crunchfish gesture patents, do you say? Short answers to the three of you. Paul?
Yeah, no, as I mentioned, I think this unlock patent for the gesture is extremely valuable, I would say. It's a no-brainer for me to see that. Totally obvious. You have to be activating your devices and access them in a secure manner. And I cannot see how you can do that without our patent, basically, in the AR space. Yeah.
And then weaknesses? Any areas you think we should be focusing more on that?
well, weaknesses and weaknesses, but we are very wide in the patents space. One can say we have a lot of patents and in actually quite many areas, and that takes we have to entertain that, and we have to drive it as it should, and that as Andreas hinted, maybe we could focus in on the patent portfolio, perhaps. That could be something to look into. Yeah.
And if I put the question like this, do the patents have some kind of commercial peak? Well, there's plenty of, technology is aging fast, and how long will they have to have a commercial value? Do you say? Is it just a window of a couple of years, or will it be? What your thoughts about that, Joachim? Andreas?
There is. I think when you patent something, the deal you do with the public is that you reveal what you've done, and you get 20 years protection. So it is, if it's only 1 year left, then the value of that patent goes down, because there is only one left of protection period. I think all our patents, the earliest ones we applied for in 2012, they are still sort of another 10 good years for them. So I think they haven't yet sort of then started to reach into that period. And most of the thing in the digital cash area, if you look at if I look at it in a wider sense for Crunchfish, what's valuable, I think it is our digital cash patents that we've built up very quickly, a very strong portfolio, and they are very early. We have just applied for them in 2020 and forward. They will be good all the way to 2040, which is even longer. I think it is. It's all about then the commercial value is all about the applicability, how applicable they are. And as Paul mentioned, in the gesture area to do this unlocking is very good. I think in the gesture area, I think everything we've done with power saving, there's a whole family around power saving as well, which is also interesting, because it's definitely going to be a key issue with say smart glasses. You don't want to have big batteries on those, and then power saving, anything you can do around that is of importance. So I think we have a few angles here which is sort of interesting to help with power saving.
Yeah, great. A final question for you all the three of you. Looking into the future, and just give me some thoughts about will you file more patent applications? Your thoughts about that, and also commercialization about your patents. You talk about licensing. What's the future perspective? You can go in different directions if you want to, but give me some look in the upcoming years. Who will start? Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think how we function in Crunchfish tends to lead to that we make some patents. That has been the case historically. So if you just look at the historical trend and the curves, you can probably see that there will be more patents, I would say. And also this fintech area that we are now working very actively, and the gesture area, both of those areas are really intense. It's a lot of companies working on different ideas and angles, so it moves very fast as well. So I think both markets, you will see a lot of new patents, not only from us but also from different companies, I think.
Andreas, looking into the future, what will you pick up?
Yeah, I think as Paul mentioned, Crunchfish needs to continue to innovate and protect the innovations that they create, obviously, because there will be commercialization opportunities in the future. And at the same time, take a decision on the current portfolio. What do you want to do with it, the purpose for it? Do you see a commercial ability for Crunchfish to do it themselves, or for someone else to commercialize it and license or sell off? Or, I mean, there are many different options you can do.
And if you compare to other companies, how Crunchfish is working with these issues, is it ordinary business, or are they quite special even there?
I would say Crunchfish is way ahead of many of the companies, not only in Sweden, but all over the world, but especially in Sweden. As Joachim mentioned, there are not so many companies actually active in patenting and having an idea why you patent. Many companies do patent and file for patents, but they don't, when you push them a little bit against the wall, they don't really know why they're doing that. They don't have a purpose. I think Crunchfish is way ahead in this curve, actually. Okay,
great. And Joachim, final words for you when you look into the future about the markets and commercialization and applying for more patents in the future. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with Paul. I think the DNA of Crunchfish is that we are protecting our ideas. We're coming up with things early. We're getting a lot of bathtub ideas as well as Andreas was saying, and I think that will continue. I think the main area how we exploit this is that it sort of protects our underlying developments that we do. That would still be the case. We are very active in the digital cash area. This is an area where we're not thinking really of just licensing out, say, the patents we have in digital cash, for instance. Rather, we will exploit it in a wider sense. A little bit like Andreas was talking about, that what you could do is that you need to add software and a lot of things. And in some sense, that's what we do. We have patents, but we're adding a whole business around it, really. But it's just a matter of scale of how much you add to it. But there are also some ideas here where we could look for commercialization. Paul is mentioning a few times this unlocking authorization thing, and that's the reason why we've asked Andreas to particularly look at that one. And I think he's come back with some encouraging reference that this might be something that you really should consider just in isolation, go out and look for that to license to others. So it's not tied to just our own development, but we apply it wider, and I think that will be the case. And that's why we started engaging with Andreas sort of 3 months ago or so to ask him what should we do about this area. So I think you will see a little bit more of that, but it is a process for us to learn, because we haven't done this before. Before it's always been linked to our own development. Now it's the first time we're looking, can we exploit this, commercialize this wider? And that's where we are.
And it will be great to follow. It's always every Friday morning I'm thinking, oh, what has happened now? Okay, 1 week, there could be plenty of stuff that's totally new. Okay, great. Just to look into the near future. Not next week we will have the season's finale, I believe, Joachim.
Yes, I'm still we are hoping for one webinar to do, and we haven't yet put it out on LinkedIn. This could, the plan I have right now is to either we run it on that Friday, or it will be in 3 weeks instead. So we haven't, because I'm still hopeful that we will be able to do one webinar that we are considering doing. It might be too early to run it next week, and then I think we will I think then rather just wait and rather run it not on Midsummer Eve, which is, I think, the what is that, the 25th, is that right? But then we'll
24th.
24th, yeah. Then we run it sort of the week after, which I guess will be July 1st instead. So I think that these are the two choices, really. But there will be one more. We hope for one season finale, but there will be a deal, the cash one. So
be prepared, and there will probably be a couple of patents they can reveal then, I realize.
Well, we will see. I think we're thinking of more of a market specific one for how we apply it.
Thank you so much for participating, Andreas from Stockholm, and Paul, of course, and Joachim. Can I just so well done, everybody. Can I just have a wish for the season's finale? Joachim, would it be possible for you to show us a nice beard in the season finale?
I think that's too much to ask for, Johan.
No, I don't. Could we have a vote on this? The season's finale, what do you say? Hands up if you want to see Joachim in a nice summer beard.
Of course.
Oh,
Paul?
come on, the bearded men.
Yeah, well, 3 against 1. Okay, you got the idea. That will be actually, it will be new people watching. Oh, there will be thousands of people really curious. I don't give a damn about the Crunchfish gesture, digital cash. I want to see the bearded man from Helsingborg. Yeah, and also bring some kind of hat, you know.
Yeah, we can do that as well. But you should know, Johan, that the bearded man from Helsingborg, that's Paul Kronholm. He's from Helsingborg. So
no.
I don't want to compete.
You. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for participating. Hope you enjoyed. It was a great time meeting you all. And Andreas, very inspiring to hear from your perspective. So have a nice weekend, everyone, and breakfast time.